Okay, this is a reaction video. The truth is from Lost in the Pond. The truth about British and American humor. Well, uh, I guess humor is basically subjective because it's really what you find funny. Somebody else might not find funny. Like I found Monty Python hysterical, but my girlfriend doesn't find it funny at all. And but let's see what he has to say. The truth about British and American humor.
Labels are a funny thing, aren't they? And I should know because I get labelled all the time, right? America's finest British import, YouTube sensation, the world's most modest man. But there's one label that gets thrown my way that's taken a bit of getting used to. And that label, ladies and gentlemen, is comedian.
I mean, he is humorous. I'll give him that. Yeah, please click like, share, and subscribe with him, and please click like, share, and subscribe with me. But yeah, I mean, look, again, you may find me humorous, you may find me dull and boring. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I would call him a comedian, but I certainly would say he has interesting outlooks on things.
While researching the accuracy of that claim, my producers found that 73% of all my humour happens by accident, something they were adamant I should not be telling my audience. All right, shut up now. I'm going to talk to YouTube.
Yeah, that really wasn't very funny, but what are you going to do?
If there's any truth to this label, if people really do respond to my work by doing this, laugh, then maybe I should produce another video on the subject. For the first 26 years of my existence, I lived exclusively on an island to the north of France. That island is called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, or just Airstrip 1 for short. I was completely and utterly a little bit happy with my life there. Then, quite unexpectedly, came Act 2, my move to the United States. For 8 years, I lived in Indiana, followed by 6 years in the great state of Chicago, just north of Illinois. And
the great state of Chicago, north of, well, I guess you would call Chicago its own place, but you know, it's a big giant city. I've been there before several times, but okay, you want to call it a state? Yes, I guess you can call it a state. You know, it's certainly big enough. But you know, it's certainly not a state. It's a part. It's really the northern part, eastern part of Illinois. That upper part there is just below Wisconsin, right on the edge of the lake.
So the Midwest has been my home for the better part of 14 years and hopefully many more to come. When you take into account everything I've said in the first 60 seconds of this elaborate motion picture, you might arrive at the same conclusion as me, that it's time to hear the truth about British versus American humour from someone who's lived it, Bob Hope. Sadly, after blowing our travel budget shooting that 2-second soundbite in Bob's home state of Ohio, my researchers suddenly remembered that the English-born comedian was no longer alive, so the task ultimately fell to me. To help recover those costs, we're asking for your help by supporting Lost in the Pond on Patreon at patreon.com/lostin.
Here's a little bit of advertisement for you. I mean, I don't think well, maybe in this day and age, it might have cost a lot to go to Ohio just to say those two words, but yeah, you want to support Lost in the Pond? There's a way to do it by spending money.
In the pond. Anyway, without further ado, here at last is the truth about British versus American humour, or humour as it's spelled in America. One of the chief accusations that you'll hear from the British is that Americans don't understand sarcasm, that to them the concept of irony is reserved for the nation's industrial workers. That was a joke about iron. But this has never been my experience. Long before I moved to the United States, I recognized these very traits in the Onion, both the satirical rag and the vegetable, whose comedy doesn't get enough credit for how multi-layered it is. I found in...
Yeah, the Onion is well, most people know what the Onion is. You know, I used to hear things that came from the Onion, which was satirical humor. And some of it was good, but some of it was okay. It was okay. It was all right. Not my taste, but if you loved it, you know, if you haven't heard about it, it's certainly worth taking a look at.
Instead, the British sarcasm and its US counterpart are two highly abundant species with completely different features. British humour is more subtle, often delivered without a nod and a wink to clue in the recipient. No, it's not at all unsettling to receive emails from strangers on the internet inviting me to stay at their house just outside of Sheboygan. This partially describes my own brand of humour and explains why I definitely don't have American friends. On the other hand, American sarcasm is more playful, but no less biting. It's often executed with a knowingly exaggerated smile. Wow, an invite to stay at your secluded house in the woods, 2 hours away from civilization. Where do I sign up? Sorry about that. That was the best I could do.
That actually wasn't too bad. Look, my first introduction to British humor came from my mom and my brother were laughing in her room as they were watching something. I had no idea what it was, and I got up and went to see what they were laughing. It was so hysterically funny. And they were watching PBS. They came across a show called Faulty Towers with John Cleese and Connie Booth. And they thought it was one of the funniest things. Now, keep in mind, I had no idea at the time. I had not seen Monty Python. I didn't know what Monty Python was. I didn't know what Monty Python was until it came on HBO, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. And then there's John Cleese, the guy we knew from Faulty Towers, is in Monty Python. And so, oh, I did not know that. And John Cleese became quite hysterical to us as a pretty funny guy. And then I started watching some of Monty Python. I remember seeing The Life of Brian. I don't remember when Life of Brian came out. And I can understand the people going crazy because of the religious tones to it, but still a funny movie. I still think Life of Brian is funnier than The Holy Grail, and people may disagree with me on that. But The Holy Grail was hysterical too. But I always found British humor pretty good. I agree. Right. I was talking about Monty Python there. There was also a show my brother showed me called Chef. I think it was Lenny Henry is his name. That was also very good too.
In the past, I've often accused America from shying away from innuendo. But this is unfair. After all, just this week I encountered a new store in Indiana named Uranus Fudge Factory, which bears the tagline, "The best fudge comes from Uranus." On top of that, the country is home to many rude place names, including PP Township, Butts County, Georgia, and Big Bone, Kentucky. But in my experience, Americans are just a little bit less receptive to so-called toilet humour than the British. And there's no shame in that. After all, innuendo is the bedrock of British society. A language so palpable, it penetrates us everywhere we go. That was not an example. From the euphemistic wordplay of William Shakespeare to the bawdy Cockney songs of Elsa Lanchester, Britain has a storied history of improbably veiling a sex joke underneath words like gazebo. And whenever I resort to such highbrow comedy, Americans, particularly here in the Midwest, will respond in one of three ways. By emitting nervous laughter, by saying the letters TMI, or by escorting me out of the Allen County Public Library.
Or they'll laugh hysterically at it if they find it funny. That's the fourth option that he didn't mention.
In 2022, one area I'd have to give Americans the edge is slapstick, a form of comedy defined by pratfalls, painful mishaps, and exaggerated delivery. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, 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 Lawrence, don't go changing your catchphrases again. But you're also thinking that the average American isn't routinely brought down by a carefully placed banana skin, while trying to outwit a dastardly and maniacal fiend by the name of Chuckles. That stuff is just on TV. And this is true. Many of the comedic differences that separate our two countries play out in accordance with a script. And slapstick is no different. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that Britain doesn't have its own bumbling, buffoonish characters that orchestrate.
Mr. Bean comes to mind. Rowan Atkinson, I think, is hysterical. I always enjoyed Mr. Bean. So that's always been good for as far as Britain's concerned. Like I said, most of the funny stuff I've ever seen in my life came from the '80s with Eddie Murphy was great. But as far as British humor, I actually find quite a bit stuff was pretty good.
straight, one outrageous catastrophe after another. I mean, I think we've all seen the news this week. And of course, my homeland has given us the likes of Charlie Chaplin, Benny Hill, and Mr. Bean.
Yeah, and that's another one. Benny Hill was also very funny growing up. Benny Hill was very funny and very enjoyable growing up.
Moreover, early slapstick can be traced back to Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors or the English Punch and Judy shows. Not to mention the still popular Christmas pantomimes featuring celebrities that were once famous in the 90s and Ben from X Factor. But American film and television takes it to a different level. Back before humans came up with colours, American motion pictures were churning out slapstick legend after slapstick legend, including Buster Keaton, Oliver Hardy, Roscoe Arbuckle, Mabel Normand, The Three Stooges, The Marx Brothers, Abbott and Costello, and Goofy, who admittedly doesn't count. More recently, two of the greatest comedies ever made, Airplane and Naked Gun, made considerable use of slapstick.
And both movies were made by the same people.
Today, the art form finds itself not just within the realm of comedy, but in Marvel films, pro wrestling, and the US Senate.
Again, not funny, but okay.
Surreal humour, comedy that employs absurdist themes in order to subvert the norms of reasoning, is something that's long been associated with Britain and onions. One of the most famous examples of this is Monty Python, which brought us the Dead Parrot sketch, the Lumberjack song,
And there's the movie I just talked about, The Life of Brian.
The Ministry of Silly Walks. I've heard it said that Monty Python is too sophisticated for Americans, that the funniest joke in the world would yield little more than a chuckle. But this seems...
There's actually two scenes in The Life of Brian that still make my brother and I laugh. And, you know, maybe you, if you've ever seen the movie, maybe these made you laugh too. It's the scene where he's writing Romans Go Home. And Graham Chapman's writing Romans Go Home is Brian, and John Cleese comes with, what's that say? Romans Go Home. No, it doesn't. What's Latin for Rome? And he starts going through, you conjugate the verb and all that stuff. That made us laugh hysterically. And also the part where, which is actually kind of funny today, where, Stan wants to be a woman. Eric Idle's playing a guy who wants to be a woman. And they're trying to say, you can't have, men can't have babies. Well, I guess in this day and age, if you listen to the college professors in the United States, they can't. But back in late 1970s, when this movie was made, you couldn't. So it's still funny.
Seems at odds with the rate at which Americans tell me that no other comedy comes close. Don't believe me? John Cleese himself said as much 3 years ago. Monty Python, or Monty Python as Americans would say, was a British cultural phenomenon whose impact on America was bettered perhaps only by the Beatles and Lost in the Pond. And while Britain has gifted us other
maybe not Lost in the Pond, but okay.
Absurdist heavyweights like the Young Ones, the Mighty Boosh, and the Day to Day, it would be absurd in itself to ignore America's own contributions, which include not just the Naked Gun and Airplane, but Adult Swim, Portlandia, and Dream Home Makeover. Every now and then, amid the general sense of laughter, comedy can take you to places you didn't expect, like Ohio. Are you really sure you can't?
Now, I'm in Ohio. Okay, and okay, I never found anything funny about the state, but okay.
I can tell that this is Illinois.
Yeah, it could very well be Ohio, because that looks like any place in Ohio that I've ever been to if you go up north.
But it can also take you to an emotional place. A place you might not ordinarily associate with a comedy club or a sitcom. It's a character suddenly lifting the veil on his or her sadness, loneliness, or fears. It's David Brent begging for his job back. It's Edmund Blackadder going over the top. Nan's last scene in The Royal Family. The final shot of Fresh Prince. The Golden Girls saying goodbye, and That Funny Feeling by Bo Burnham. It's when the laughter dies down, and you're standing there wondering if you really are a comedian, or if you're forever doomed to play out that fantasy in your bedroom, like you did when you were 12, before you knew the meaning of the words self-employed and tax return.
Now that is somewhat amusing, I'll give him that.
Before putting this video together, I briefly determined that British comedy, with its penchant for the understated, probably had a finer grasp of comedic pathos than its American counterpart. But in listing off those examples just now, I'm not sure that's true. At the heart of all good comedy, irrespective of its country of origin, is a depiction of the human condition. And for once, I'm not talking about bowel movements. What I'm saying is, British and American comedy have an equal ability to punch you in the gut. I might be talking about bowel movements. And on that note, thank you for watching this video on British versus American comedy. As it happens, I test out most of my jokes on Twitter, where you can follow me at LostInThePondUS, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that I don't have to. Until the next video, goodbye.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to British versus American humor, I think both are funny. I've enjoyed both growing up, as I mentioned through, but it's also subjective. It all depends what you find funny. Like I said, my girlfriend doesn't find British humor funny at all, or maybe Monty Python. I don't know. We did watch that movie. His name escapes me. It came out in 2012. It came from Britain. It had a bunch of British actors, and it was about Christmas. I forget the name of it right now, but she enjoyed that one. So maybe it's not British humor, but it was it's Monty Python type humor. Again, I don't know, because again, Monty Python had us laughing hysterically. So did John Cleese, specifically in Monty Python. But it's all subjective. Love Actually, that's the name of the movie. Love Actually, that's the one. We saw that. And I'd already seen it, but she had not seen it, and she's actually a big Severus Snape fan, and was kind of disappointed in what Alan Rickman does in the movie. But he's playing a part. He didn't cheat on him. He didn't really cheat on anybody. That is what it is. But still, a good movie that she enjoyed. But it's subjective. But British versus American humor, if it makes you laugh, it makes you laugh. This is a good video. I enjoy doing it. Truth about British and American humor from Lost in the Pond. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him. And please click like, share, and subscribe for me. Let me see if there's any more left here to finish up. Okay. Again, please click like, share, and subscribe for him. Please click like, share, and subscribe for me. And you have a good rest of your day, and thanks for watching.